So this one comes off not quite off the heels of a discussion on the GrapheneOS Discord, but it's kind of like inspired by it because there are quite a few people that are very opinionated with how you implement certain things in GrapheneOS. And it kind of like branches out into technology in general. The way people see, like, well, you want to do this, so this is the one that you have to use. And as time has gone on, I've developed and grown and been explored more and more. I've found that sometimes you have to meet someone where they're at, and more than anything, you have to figure out what that person's goals are and how the technology that is available works best with that. So in the case of GrapheneOS, a lot of people go to it to try and de-Google, remove Google from their life, and find alternatives that don't rely on Google services. The problem is you've got some of the loudest people sometimes within GrapheneOS are the ones that talk about, well, this is the only way you do it, this is the way it has to be, and this is the way it is. They run under, and I've noticed this in many cases, is they are running on certain assumptions and those opinions. It's the fact that no one's going to do their own checking or is willing to. No one is going to accept the risk, or they're going to blame the operating system for the risk that they accepted knowingly, or they are going to come and, like, some other thing and clog up whatever and waste everyone's time. And I think that comes from a lack of, one, not having the tools to inform people well, and also not understanding how to do that. So the initial inspiration revolves around Sandbox Google Play. So the conversation, when you go to the GrapheneOS Discord or any other community area, there are certain people that are very loud about, like, just install Google Sandboxed Google Play, deal with it, that's it. It's the only way to do things, the only way that you do it. And you just install it in the owner profile, be that and the other. You don't install it, set up a secondary profile to put Sandbox Google Play on, because that's worthless, adds too much friction, and it doesn't matter. And I'd made the comment that it depends on your goals whether that friction is acceptable or not. And then the retort comes back, there's no added benefits, or the added benefits are so minimal, the friction, it's worthless. But that's coming from a certain point of view. When you're looking at a different point of view of, I'm trying to create that friction between me and Google, so it may be worthwhile, or there are certain things that, yes, I use regularly, but I don't want those to be a reliant thing, so I'm going to put these off in the side over here. And everything that requires that requires Google Play. Or you don't want to always have Google running in the background of everything that you do. And people are trying to avoid that, but these people tend to coalesce around, like, this is the way it is, and this is the way it just is, and this is the only way to do it, the only way to apply it. Your premise is worthless and doesn't mean anything. When one, GrapheneOS removes Google from the background, if you don't install Google Play services through their App Store. Two, there are other options to installing things. It's just you have to be willing to accept either that you're going to put in a little extra work to make sure that you get your apps from trusted, verified sources, or you're willing to accept the fact that your apps are going to be a little bit out of date because of the way that F-Droid runs their repos. Or you're installing the repos for F-Droid from the developers themselves, or someone that keeps them up to date and uses proper signing keys and what all. Or you get the idea. But so on the GrapheneOS usage guide, there is a section that talks about this and setting it up. And the first one they mention is the simplest one. It doesn't say this is the recommended approach. It says the simplest approach. There is no verbiage in here saying that this is the way that you do it. It says this is the simplest option, okay? And that's it. There's no opinionated, like, do this and be done with it. There's no, you have to do it this way, but it also adds in, if you want to choose which apps use Google Play rather than making it available to all of them, install it in a separate user or work profile for apps depending on Google Play. This is the part where the friction comes in. People talk about, well, but by not doing that, you miss out on push notifications, timely push notifications. There is a lot of worthless friction that you're adding in, but GrapheneOS is still more secure. It's like, well, I want the security, but I also don't want to deal with Google all the time. So many of you know that I run Steam. I use Steam. Steam does not auto start every time I boot my computer. So Steam is not always running in the background unless I tell it to explicitly start. And that in many cases is by design because I don't need their processes taking up compute power all the time. There are many cases where it's patching a game and everything just chugs for whatever reason. And I don't get why. There are certain games that like they patch and for whatever reason, like Baldur's Gate 3 will, like the patches chug hard. And I haven't had to deal with that recently, but Helldivers 2 has been another example where that has happened. And that gets annoying. It's like, okay, I will pick a dedicated time to open this up and worry about you later. But you don't do it unless I tell you to explicitly. This is the case that some people want to do with Google Play. They don't want to have it running all the time. And sure, you can disable or keep battery optimization for it enabled. But when people are like, well, you just disable battery optimization so that you get timely notifications. Many people want to take their device and turn it into something less than what everyone else uses their device for. So timely notifications is not important. I can still get timely SMS notifications. There are certain apps I can still run. And if I really need it, I can limit those to unified push. And many of the messaging apps, I have basically turned notifications off completely because I don't need them and I don't need those apps to have timely notifications. So I'm down to like maybe 5 apps that have notifications, and the very basic ones that are like timely, I'm going to get them quicker because of the way that they work and they don't rely on GCM or FCM. And that's the difference in a use case where the pattern doesn't always apply. It's like if someone were to come up to me, hey, I'm looking into Linux. I want something that's easy to use and to work with. It gives me the tools, but also gives me the power that as I learn and progress, that I can use that on top of everything. So I've got the tools to transition into it, but then I've also got the powerful tools otherwise that once I really learn how to use it, I can tweak it and mess with it. And that's where I'd be something like, okay, something Arch-based, something with a pre-installed GUI and what have you. If someone's already experienced and they're like, hey, I want to like learn more and more, then it's like, well, here's a base Arch installer. If you want to go like deep in, here's Gentoo. But if someone's just getting started and it's like, I just want something that works, then I'm going to probably push something like Linux Mint Debian or what have you. One, it's still, with the Debian edition, it still gives the powerful stuff like some of what Debian has, but Linux Mint tends to be easier, and so on. I'm going to adapt my recommendation to what their goals are looking for and the use cases that they have. It's a lot like when someone on the GrapheneOS Discord was asking about how he's going to listen to his music. It's like, and turns out all he was doing was fishing for someone to tell him what to do. Versus like what I'm asking, what services do you use? Do you use Spotify, YouTube Music, what have you? And it's like someone's like, well, just install YouTube Music. Oh, but the ads, it's like, you're not telling, like when I ask a question and you don't answer, I can't help you. And I think some people just assume like, just tell them this rather than figure out what they really want. But when you deal with so many people that don't articulate what they really want, that's when it gets really, really difficult. And then it turns into, well, just do it this way. And then when you meet someone that's able to articulate what they want, their goals and everything, then they start shoving them into the box that doesn't match their goals because everybody's used to these people that can't articulate it very well. And that's the problem is, I guess more than anything, is that people don't know how to articulate well what they're looking for and what they're going after, such that you get stuck with just install this, be done with it, and don't worry about it. Versus, no, I'm knowledgeable enough to accept the risk or to go through the process of verifying everything, and you're just telling me that, like, just do this, when it's like, no, I want to do this. Now, there's certain technical sides of things that have become more and more apparent that they do point out, like, oh, you install apps through Aurora Store, and if it relies on certain Google libraries, then you're still going to be running it the same way. Granted, I will say that there's some likelihood that that means that in all reality, whether you install it from Aurora Store or from Sandbox Google Play, then those permissions that weren't asked for that the apps take when they rely on certain Google services are there anyway, whether you have Sandbox Google Play or not. But then Android's sandboxing means that you can still force stop certain things. It's kind of like the contact scopes or the permission scopes, period. Which is one thing that I fell in love with GrapheneOS, was the fact that I can set scopes to certain apps. So WhatsApp, I can tell it, hey, yeah, you have access to my contacts, but really you don't, which has been an annoying thing for quite a while for me to sit there and have, when I need WhatsApp for certain things or I'm messing with scammers, it gets annoying to be like, hey, we need access to your contacts so you can start a new chat. It's like, no, I don't want to give that to you. Now I can tell WhatsApp that, like, yes, you have access to my contacts, which is none of them, but you have access to it within this certain limited area. Same thing with storage scopes, and I think a couple other things. But these are different tools that are provided that sometimes go underhandedly taken for granted by people that just tell you to do things a certain way when if they were willing to listen and adapt their recommendations, they'd probably have, I don't know if they'd have less issues per se, but they'd be able to serve the other people using it better. And that's where other services like Mark 37 or some of these GrapheneOS resellers that don't actively try to compromise the security come into play, is they probably actually listen a little bit more than some of these people that are so gung-ho and stuck in recommending a certain direction that they are actually to help people actually accomplish their goals. And which is something that I aim to do myself. So even with my own stuff, it's like only, again, certain apps get notification permissions. Otherwise, if you want Snapchat to send me like 5 million notifications, that's going to be in a separate profile where it's going to be able to be put at rest whenever I want to, which is probably only going to likely be open for 5 minutes at a time and then be closed off. That's it. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, like, comment, subscribe, leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.